right, 73's Keith, and thank you for the beautiful report. Enjoy the beautiful Sunday in London. 73's W1ZY looking into Victor Kilo Long Path JA in Europe, calling CQDX.
Well, I'm glad everybody came out. I wish we'd have had a few more people here, but it is what it is. I think one thing, that people don't do enough of is have fun in ham radio. And people look at CW as a lot of work, and it's really not. I mean, there's the most fun to be had in CW, I think, than any other mode in ham radio, at least for me. I became a ham in 2020. I met W4QO very soon after I became a ham. I would have been a ham much earlier in my life, but I just knew I couldn't learn Morse code. And so I never did. So then when COVID was going on, I thought, well, let me try that. And I found out there was no Morse code requirement anymore. I thought, well, that's great. I can get in there and I can do it now. So I did. And, I started out and became an extra before I even had a radio. But I met W4QO, Jim Stafford. There's a new guy with that call sign now, but when I say W4QO, know that I mean Jim Stafford. And he introduced me to ham radio like no one else did at the time, and invited me over for shack visits and some things like that, and which in his state of health I thought was quite remarkable. But anyway. So he hosted CW Chat, and so I started going there because I determined that I wanted to be wherever he was, and so, all right. This whole thing is in memory of Jim Stafford and dedicated to him, W4QO. You see him there after he'd had his surgery, the cancer removed behind the one eye. But he was in pretty good shape at the time, and this is the fellow that is really responsible for. I have to credit him for almost everything that I've done. All right, why do we want to learn CW? Well, have fun. That's the main thing. That's what we got to do in ham radio. This is a hobby. We're supposed to have fun with it, and if we're not having fun with it, it's not a hobby. And if we're not having fun, we're doing something wrong. So that's the main reason to learn CW, is to have fun. There's another reason, several other reasons. One is neuroplasticity. Does anybody know what neuroplasticity means? It means your brain to be able to generate new pathways to other areas in your brain, and for it to be able to accept more information. There's many other things about it too, but it's been proven that learning and operating CW improves neuroplasticity. And that's also very good for people that have other disorders like OCD, obsessive compulsive disorders, depression, addiction, recovery from accidents, all kinds of things where neural repair might be needed or whatever. It's been shown that this activates areas in the brain that do that. And I'm not a doctor, I never played one on TV. But anyway, that's the other thing is we meet people from all over. In other modes, voice is not this way, but digital is. You work somebody one time, that's it. They're not worth anything to you anymore. They come up gray on your screen, and that's it. As CW operators, we work each other over and over and over again, time and time again, contest after contest, week after week. We get to know who each other are. We meet these people. We email each other back and forth. We see each other at the Hamfest and smile and shake hands, and it's just a great way to meet people from all over the world. I'll be taking a trip to across the pond here a little bit later, and I'm going to be getting together with some of the UK CW ops while I'm over there. And without doing that, that opportunity would not be available to present itself to me. And it's a skill and it's a journey. You know, with a lot of things with ham radio, you learn how to operate the equipment and then you go about doing it. CW is a skill. You can be good at it, you can be not very good at it, you can be okay at it, but the more you develop your skill, the better off you are at it. And that's why it keeps increasing neuroplasticity as time goes on, because it's something you keep working on. You keep developing that skill. You keep generating those new pathways in the brain that make things work better for you, even in other parts of life. And so those are reasons that have actually nothing to do with the code itself. Let's do some quick definitions, because there's a lot of mischaracterization of what terms are in CW. A key, there's a bunch of them lined up over there. A key is what you use with your hand. It can be a straight key, a bug, a whatever. It can be all kinds of things. But a key is not a keyer. A keyer is an electronic device that you plug a key into to generate dits and das. Don't call a key a keyer, because nobody will know what you're talking about. They'll say, well, the statement you make won't make sense. So a key is the actual key that you use. A key such as a K1EL wind keyer. I have one set up back here that after this little presentation, I can show you how that works personally if you'd like. So we use keyers also to send computer-sent CW. Some of the best CW operators there are never use a key at all. And I know that'll shock some people. And some people think that it's not real CW if you don't use a key. But if you tell AA3B Bud Trench, he's not a CW operator. He runs SO2R at 2 operators, one radio in each ear. He does double. While he's answering one station, he's listening to another one calling him. He answers that station, he's listening to another one calling on the other side. So he can't use a key because he has no side tone. The side tone is what you hear when you use the key, and that's the way we guide how we use the key. But we have software that will send that code as well, and if you trust the software, maybe you don't need to hear that side tone. Still tough for me to operate without a side tone. I did it some up at Lake Lure this past weekend, operating in this contest that was going on with my little laptop up there and remoting into my station, and I didn't have a key at all. And I made several hundred contacts just sitting up there. So keys are, I love keys, and I personally like to be able to, we call it sending with macros, but I personally will not send anything with a macro that I can't send with my key at that speed, which is about 38 words a minute right now. All right, Farnsworth. Sounds like an English name, doesn't it? Probably is. We won't worry about history. We're not doing history today. Farnsworth is a method that you can use to make it easier to learn CW with keeping your character spacing up where it needs to be. And we'll talk a little bit more about that, but we always recommend a no character speed less than 18 words a minute to learn the alphabet. If you learn lower than that, you'll start counting. If you count, you'll never be able to speed up. It's all about learning how it works. More on that. What is CW? CW is continuous wave. There is no modulation in CW. You can't overdrive a CW signal in a radio. It's just a carrier. It is only a carrier. There's no audio with it. There's no modulation with it. The tone you hear is beat against another oscillator in your radio when you set up what your CW frequency is. And it will beat up against that frequency, and it'll give you the tone that you're looking for. So that's what continuous wave is. Now, Morse code can be sent as modulated fashion, but that's not CW. That's Morse code. They're not the same thing. International Morse code is the code that we use to send CW. There are some little bit differences there. And as I said before, a macro is a recorded set of characters used for repetitive sending, such as in contests. I'm sitting there calling CQ. I don't want to sit there, CQ, KO4VW, and do that for 2 days. You know, the computer can do that for me. I have to worry enough about trying to catch all the call signs that are coming back to me. Types of keys. Straight key. That's what we usually like people to start with to learn on. And we'll get more into that. An iambic paddle, you know, straight key's the standard old key that you see that people pushing down on. You know, you push down on the straight key. An iambic paddle is used with a keyer. It takes an electronic keyer to use that. Most modern radios have keyers built into them that you can use somewhat. An iambic pedal has squeeze functions. There's 2 levers on it. One thing happens if you kick one lever. The other thing happens if you hit the other lever, and something else happens if you squeeze them both. I'm not going to talk about what happens. You can figure that out. The other thing is a single lever paddle. That's what I use. I don't like squeeze functions. Never did. When I was trying to speed up past 25 words a minute, I was making all kinds of errors. I just couldn't do it. It was driving me crazy. So and I was trying to use the squeeze functions and things like that. So I bought one of the keys that's on that table over there, a Vibroplex Vibro key or single lever. It was great. I loved it. My errors went away. I started being able to send better, and I've since then upgraded that to a Bengali HST3. Which I can send much faster with than I can with the Vibroplex. But those are personal preferences. There are a lot of great CW operators that love the iambics and don't like single levers. So those are there's all kinds of personal preference items in CW. There's not necessarily one right way to do things. A bug is a mechanical monstrosity that makes all of its dits by itself. You have to make all of the DAWs. And you vary the speed of the dits by the weights on the thing, on the arm, or I've got one back there that's got a variable arm that you can move back and forth that'll slow the dits up and down. So you sort of get the speed of the dits by yourself, you make the DAWs. There are some very poor bug senders out there. And a lot of people really hate to try to copy a bug. When a bug comes back to them, at CW Chat, we share a list of call signs of bad bug operators so that we won't have such trouble when we run into them. We all know who they are. A cootie looks just like a straight a single lever paddle, but it's a straight key. And it goes side to side. It has a contact to the right, a contact to the left. But there's no dit or DAW side. If you hold it to one side, it'll just sit there with a constant tone. If you hold it the other side, it'll just sit there with a constant tone. You go back and forth, and there's not a DAW side or a dit side. You can make DAWs or dits out of either side. I'm not very good with a cootie, actually, but I really don't want to be either, to be honest with you. Opportunities for fun. That's what it's all about. In CW, we have this crazy things called fun weekly practice sessions. These are things where everybody gets on the air at certain times and sees what all we can do in an hour. And these happen several different times during the week at different speeds and things like that. That's one place where you get to know a lot of CW operators. The K1 USN slow speed test, that's where we from CW Chat usually get our new operators started. That's a 20 word a minute max, and it's run by the K1 USN Radio Club by the CW Ops members in that club. And it's really made as a place for new people to get on the air. And a lot of the CW Ops operators, really good operators, are on there calling CQ way below their speed just to work you when you're brand new. And I do the same thing. And so I love it to get up a brand new guy when I know he's not in the log, not in the call history file, nowhere, he's never shown up before, he calls me in the slow speed test, and I may have a hard time copying him because he's not sending that well, but it's fun. I love it when a brand new guy, you wouldn't believe how many emails I've gotten from people telling me that I was their first CW contact in the SST. And that's great. Once we get pretty good in the SST, we can move on up to the medium speed test. The medium speed test is a maximum of 25 words a minute. It's a little bit more of a contest format. Niceties are not really exchanged that much as they are in the SST. They're pretty much both in contest format, and I'll explain what contest format is. But you really do. I can routinely, if there's a lot of propagation's decent, I can routinely score over 100 QSOs an hour on the MST. Things have got to be in pretty good shape. The band's got to be in good shape, and there got to be enough people there. And when you can score 100 Qs an hour, that's fun. I mean, that's just a lot of fun when you just got them coming at you. The pile-ups are just fun. There's just no other way to describe it. Then we have the CWTs. These happen on Wednesdays. There's no speed limit there, and this is the weekly CW Ops mini test, as we call it, put on by the CW Ops Club, which myself and there's quite a few CW Ops guys in the audience here tonight. There's no speed limit there. The minimum is supposed to be 25. Sometimes I hear people below that. There is no upper speed limit. I run 38 words a minute on that, which is faster than I do on contest. But it's just a place to get out there and just let it stretch out, run wide open, see what you can do. Most people are not going to run that fast on most contests, but it's a great place to build your speed and your stamina. Other places to have fun. There's the Straight Keys Century Club. That's straight keys only, no keyers, no paddles, bugs, straight keys only. Cooties are allowed. That's not necessarily the best place, I think, for new ops to get started, although it was the place I made my first QSOs. But because a lot of the sending is very poor, to be honest with you. A lot of the sending has not got the timing and the rhythm that you like to hear in a good CW operator. That's why I'd sort of rather start people in other areas, because so they really get an ear for what it's supposed to sound like. Nothing against SKCC. I have an SKCC number, and I've got a lot of those. I got a lot of QSOs. There's POTA SOTA. That's the go-to method for that these days, and that's probably one of the biggest growth areas for CW there are right now. Seems like all the POTA SOTA operators, portable operators, want to do CW, and that's a great thing. There's some really good senders there, and just like everywhere else, there's some people that don't send very well. But we welcome all of those people into the hobby, and the more experience they get, hopefully the better they'll get at it. And that's one of those areas. There are a lot of operating differences in these things, and we'll get to that. The state QSO parties, when John was just talking about the Georgia QSO party, you can really, really rack up the points in the Georgia QSO party on CW if you've got a good station. I think it's really important for us as Georgia operators to put on a good showing at the Georgia QSO party. I know I work a lot of the QSO parties, and when you start working a QSO party and there's only 5 or 6 guys there to contact, it's just a failure, basically. But if you can get on there and work that thing for several hours and just really get the contacts, then it's fun for you, and it's fun for everybody else that's trying to contact you. So the more of us get on the air, whether it be in CW or SSB or whatever in the Georgia QSO party, the better it will be for the Georgia QSO party in general, in my opinion. So it's a great, and then for the one-by-one call signs that Norfolk uses for the Georgia QSO party, it is a big advantage to be able to do CW and go mixed, because when they're trying to spell Norfolk or whatever like that, some of the CW operators might not do voice or whatever. But if you're a CW operator, you're going to have to do voice too. So, but anyway, that's just for that. One of the craziest ones is the NAA Sprint. It's very fast. You get on there and start calling CQ. A guy calls you and you answer him and he steals your spot, you have to move and then either search and pounce and grab another one that somebody's calling CQ, and you steal his spot, and it just keeps going. So you can never stay in the same spot. You're moving all the time. It's pure mayhem. It's a lot of fun. There's the QRP Fox hunts, 5 watts. These are worked split mode. These are on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and so nobody's running over 5 watts. And there'll usually be 2 foxes out there in different parts of the country. We're trying to find the foxes and work the foxes. And so it's with it being QRP, and supposedly no spotting is allowed, but you can usually find them on the spotting sites because RBN picks up everything. I mean, you're not supposed to spot them, but you don't control reverse beacon network, which Lee covered, I think, last time. But the Spartan Sprint, that's another QRP one. This one is, and we have a field spec, K4PQC is big into this one. This is the number of QSOs, the score is the number of QSOs times the weight of your radio. He's got his radio down to just a few ounces. With battery, everything, key, the whole thing. I mean, he's even taken out the excessive phenolic between the traces on the circuit board and stuff like that. I mean, they go to the point of lightening these things up forever. But it's fun. There's 2 categories. There's the skinny and the tubby. You can run with any station at 5 watts in the tubby category. You're not going to score very high in the tubby category. But who cares? It's all about having fun anyway. A lot of these things, the scores just don't make any difference at all. It's just about getting in there and having fun. There's contests galore. You know, we just had one this past weekend and talked a little bit about. There's the Georgia QSO party. There's all the other QSO parties. There's the 13 colonies thing that comes around. There's all these things, all of these opportunities for CW. It's just all the state QSO parties, the Canadian QSO parties. There's always something. It seems like that you just about can't plan anything else if you're going to do all these things. So you can't do them all. The other thing is it's not all about contesting. You can rag chew on CW. You can sit there and have conversations. The SKCC format is sort of like a mini rag chew, but it's very structured. You know exactly what's coming and what you're supposed to send. But the free-form rag chews can go anywhere. Normally those speeds are kind of slower, usually no more than 25, 28 words a minute for rag chews. And that's when you're on a rag chew, it's just like me and you talking. You can talk about anything you want to. It doesn't make any difference. Some of them are very short, last 2 or 3 minutes. Sometimes they last an hour or more, just between 2 people. So rag chews can be a whole lot of fun. And the expeditions, special events, on and on and on. DX is a great way to work DX. And if you're not used to working split, like they all do on DX on CW, the QRP Fox hunt's a great way to get some experience working split. How to learn CW. There's a lot of different methods, and nobody really agrees. I learned this way. I learned the W4QO method, and that's the way we teach it at CW Chat. W4QO hated the Coke method. He just hated it. He said it was a method that was used to teach German soldiers, and he didn't think it was appropriate here. That was the only explanation I ever got. How much slower you're going to be learning that way, I have no idea. I learned this way, so I don't know what it would have been like learning the other way. But this is the order that we learned the alphabet in. Now, people think that once you learn the alphabet, you know CW. They're just getting started, okay? You got to learn I tell people, let's get this alphabet thing out of the way so we can start teaching you CW and get you on the air. We just get the alphabet out of the way quickly as you can. It's going to take you a long time, or a while for you to have instant character recognition, but that's part of the journey. You don't expect it to happen immediately. So we go through these different groups, and all of these different groups are on our website at NARFL. We have all of the practice files on there that W4QO left us. And I'm not going to get into how to use those files or anything like that. You're going to have to come to CW Chat to find that out. It's just, because there's just no use going through that because nobody will remember it anyway. Why do we learn the letters in that order? Well, if you look at the word Estonia, look at E right here. See that? Let's find S. God, there's a lot of S. O, a lot of O's, a lot of N's, a lot of I's, and a lot of A's. And these are the short ones. These are the single or double digit most or dit, da, dit characters. And the reason they're assigned the short number of dits or das is because they're the most often used. And the other thing is, and I didn't really realize this, John, WE4AUB, he's back here somewhere. Anyway, there he is. He realized that all of the other characters are made up of the previous characters of an Estonia. That's why you learn Estonia first. You take combinations of those characters, they make all the rest of them. That was a great observation, John. Group 7 is punctuation and prose signs. The biggest punctuation you need to learn is the question mark. What? Did it, da, did it, and you can always say did it, da, did it, and people know what you mean. And you almost get to thinking did it, da, did it when you have a question mark once you get it in your head so much. I've even said that to people before when I didn't know what they meant and not realizing it. But so you start thinking in CW, you don't watch out. But prose signs, what are prose signs? Prose signs are combinations of one or more characters, but there's no spaces between them. And I'm not going to get into what we use the prose signs for, but that'll be, you'll get into that either CW Chat or the other places that we'll send you. But that's what they are. A prose sign is just two characters, and they can be represented several different ways. Like if you look at w4qo.blogspot.com and you see how W4Q, he represented some of the call signs. It's different than the way I do, but it's the same sound. All right, and then important points. Now, I do not recommend that you try to learn CW on your own. I really don't. There's just too many resources out there to help you along the way. If you learn bad habits, it's so hard to get rid of them. I mean, if you just take the time and learn it right the first time, you'll save yourself a lot of trouble. And so, having said that, if you do try, always practice and learn with a character speed of 18 words a minute or faster. Now, Farnsworth, we said Farnsworth, what is that? We can slow that down. We can add spacing between the characters and between the words that we're studying to get down to 5 or 6 words a minute while still having character spacing at 18. So that gives us more time to think between the characters while we're learning the characters at a speed where we can recognize the sound rather than count how many dits and das we have. We don't want to count dits and das. I mean, the people that learned at 5 words a minute have the hardest time. They have a lot harder time than people who have never, ever done it before. And that's pretty much all that's there. How to learn CW. Again, get on the air as quickly as possible. I remember I was kind of stubborn about trying to get on the air, and Jim was telling me, he said, Steve, you're ready to get on the air, man. We got to get you on the air now. And I said, Jim, I've been a musician for a lot of my life, Jim. And I said, I usually don't get on the stage when I don't know the song. And Jim said, well, it's not a concert, it's a jam. Have you ever done that? I said, well, many times. So you don't worry about it. Nobody expects you to be perfect. Nobody out there is perfect. Everybody makes mistakes. Everybody screws up. I've even been duped by CW Ops number 1, N3JT. I mean, everybody screws up. And it's just, nobody cares. You know, we worry more about it ourselves than anybody else does. So you got to get over it and get over that fear. W4QO would try to tell us to get on the air after we learned half of the alphabet. I'm not sure how you do that. I don't necessarily recommend that myself. I wouldn't do that. But he would push you to get on the air, and I'll do the same thing. I'm gonna want you to know the alphabet and the numbers. You don't have to know them that well. You can even have time to think about them or whatever. But once you do that, it's time to get on the air right now. And the way we do it is we want you to learn the alphabet and the numbers on a straight key. As soon as you learn those, we want to go at 18 words a minute. Now that's pushing a straight key. So you're going to learn on a straight key pretty fast from the beginning. And then as soon as you learn the alphabet and the numbers, we're going to switch you over to a paddle of your choosing. You're going to change 2 or 3 times, and nobody's ever happy. But we're going to switch you over to that and try to get you to speed up at least to 20 words a minute. And then once you've gotten to that point, I join you, or you join me on a Zoom session on the CW chat on one of the slow speed test events, and we go in there and I sort of show you around. I show you what everybody's doing. I know everybody there. I know how they operate. There's several different ways people operate, different ways, and I sort of take you through there and show you that this guy does this guy does this guy does this. All right, now here's this guy. Send him your call sign now. and then so we'll go through and each of us work the same guys going through and that sort of takes some of the sting out of it, because a lot of it's knowing when to jump in and when not to, when to send and when to answer and all those kind of things. Those kind of things, getting on the air and learning what's going on the air is more difficult, I think, than learning CW itself, learning Morse code. You can if you're on your CW journey and just learning the alphabet, I would encourage you to learn your call sign and your name. Jump ahead of any and all of the groups to do those, because those will be the things that you send more than often, and the things that you're going to hear. It's not just about sending it. People send you, but when you send your call sign out to somebody, you gotta know when they send it back that you gotta recognize it. That hey, that's me. So it's a two-way thing there. After all of that, as Marius says, I'll throw you off the cliff. And that's what happened. We did this with Marius and several other people. He's not the only one. But that was Marius's saying of what happened to him after his experience. Now, he didn't get hurt too bad, because he's a CW Ops member now and he's out there burning it up all the time. Worked out real well for Marius. But then the journey continues. As time goes, your skill increases, the fun increases. I had fun from the very start, but I'm having more fun now than I ever had. And I think that as you get better, even the level of amount of fun you can have increases. It has for me anyway. Some people, we don't do a regular classroom type study environment at CW Chat. We provide you with the tools that you can learn if you will do that on your own. That's what I did, and that's what several other of us did. But that doesn't work for everybody. And so if you need a classroom environment that works for you for whatever reason, I don't care why, these are the places to go. CW Ops Academy, that's a great place to go to learn CW. Long Island CW Club is another place to go. There are all kinds of online resources. Be careful with them, though, because there are some that aren't that great. That's why it's better to get involved in a group and let them detect you. But if you want to look or direct you, but if you want to look at there's so many online resources. I started to write them all down, and I thought that's going to take 5 slides. Okay, so this is where you go, cwops.org/CW-resources. That's where they all are. And all the ones that I would recommend and some that I might not. But that's where they all are. And there's a list of them right there, all of the trainers, all of the, all of the phone apps, all of these things. So that's where you can find them. And we'll do that without that. We've got many tools to help us get on the air. It's a lot easier than you might think. N1MM, F3, N3, FJP, DX, Lab, or other software. As I said before, many of the great CW operators never use a key. Never. Or rarely. I shouldn't say never. I use mine about half the time, I would say. But you've got your band maps and spectrum scopes. I'll show you what one is on the next slide here, what it looks like. And what that'll do to you. Macros. Macros is where you store those strings for a contest, in a contest or a POTA environment or whatever, where you know what you're going to send. You can just go ahead and record that. You don't have to send it with your key every time. I actually recommend beginning CW operators use macros instead of their key. And the reason I do that is because it's going to send a perfectly timed signal. And that's the impression that all the people that you're going to work are going to go away with. And you'll progress a lot faster. The other reason is that it takes quite a bit of exposure for your brain to sort out exactly how it's supposed to sound. And that's just a way of practicing not only what's going on the air, but training yourself of how the exchange is supposed to sound, so that when you start sending with your key and it doesn't sound that way anymore, you know something's wrong. But if you always start with your key to begin with and you have all of your bad habits or whatever, you don't recognize the errors in what you're doing. There are decoders such as CW Get and FL Digi. I like CW Get for a decoder if I'm going to use one. I don't use one much anymore. I did some in the beginning. I like CW Get because, not necessarily because of the decoder itself, but because of the CW waveform that it paints, and it really helps you figure out how to adjust for your radio for a clean CW signal. And it really helped teach me how to do that. And now I don't need it anymore. I can do it by ear, but I couldn't do it by ear until I was taught. But it does help. I don't mind people using a decoder off to the side if it'll help them get on the air and start having fun. First, we're here to have fun. I'm not a purist. I just want to have fun. I think everybody that uses a decoder wants to shed it as quickly as possible. And I don't use it anymore, but I still don't mind. It took, right? There's no use me loading up because I just don't look at it. It takes up screen space. I don't have anything on my screen that's not usable. But it's very helpful to practice into a decoder, whether you're using a paddle or a straight key, to see if that decoder can figure out what you're sending, and with your key. And I practice with those little Morcerinos, and there's in Log4OMin 2, there's a section, decoder section that will decode what you send, and some other programs that will do that as well. Especially when you're starting out, there's some real pitfalls to avoid as far as timing and on signals. And so most started either in the contesting. People say, "Oh, I don't like contesting." Well, we're not asking you to stay up for 2 days and stay up all night and all like that. If you get into a contest and you make 5 contacts, that's 5 contacts you didn't make before, and 5 QSOs you didn't have. So you use contesting just to get better for a while. You don't have to compete. Scores are not that important for a lot of these things. Most start in the contesting or portable environment, where the exchange is short and somewhat predictable. You know what you're looking for. You know what you're going to send. You know what you're looking for coming back, and that's and you get it, and it makes it easy. God, I didn't realize it was that easy. All right, here's my screen operating from North Carolina, sitting in Lake Lure behind on the couch. I wish that I could have made some of this a little bigger, but you see here, I've got two band maps here. Here's a band map, and these are two bands. I've got a two receiver radio, so that's one for each. Most people will just have one of those. All of these call signs are here. So what does that mean? It means, wow, maybe I can find out what somebody's call sign is before, and then maybe just see if I can verify it with my ear. I don't have to, get it from scratch. And because RBN's going to pick up these things, it's going to put them there. You can go up and down that band map and click stations and find them in workstations. And after a while, you'll get to know all these people. Now, these are not perfect, but RBN makes mistakes, and you'll find blown spots all around the real one sometimes. There are ways to narrow that down and get rid of some of those, which if you come to CW Chat, I'll tell you how to do that. But the main thing is that you can just go up and down there. You can have a macro recorded right here, down here in this bottom part down here, and you just send your call sign, hit F4, send your call sign, guys calling, send your call sign. You already know what his call sign is. You could have already put it in the call box down here if you just double clicked on it on the band map, and it's already down here in the call box. So and then we have call history files that one of our nice friends in Canada helps us with, that puts these together. And if you're in the call history file, you can hit spacebar, and N1MM will already know your exchange. And you can just for some things, such as the SST, the practice sessions and things like that, where the scores don't really matter, you can do that. Now, using the call history file for the DX contest this weekend, you'd have to throw out over half your QSOs if you used that, because it was not right. The thing was, the exchange was your power level. That's what they sent back to you. The DX always sent back their power level. You get everything, cut numbers, all kinds of stuff. You get Ks or NNs and for 99 and KW for kilowatt, or just a K for a kilowatt, or all these kind of things. So you got to copy that, and those will be different because people operate different every year, because call history files are based off of historical data. So while call history files will help us get on the air, band maps will help us get on the air, and all like that, it does not take away our responsibility to listen to what's being said. And so we learn along the way. We don't have to be experts to go and make QSOs like this. I can take almost anybody and get them to make 5 QSOs in an hour on the SST after working with you for 30 minutes. But then you have all these other things. What is all of this up here? Well, this is the check window. We have 2 ways to verify calls. One is through the SuperCheck partial database, and the other is through the call history file for the thing. Now, if they're in the SuperCheck partial database, you enter a call sign down here in the call box. It'll put a check mark beside it. They say, okay, that's a real call. Is it the right call? Who knows? It's a real call for somebody. And then if they're in the call and that's all you'll get if they're just there and they're not in the call history file. If you go hit the space bar and let the call history file fill it in, if they have something in the call history file, well, you got to check that as well. So it's really pretty simple. It will do a lot of that for you. As you can see, the spectrum scope that I have up at the top, it has all of the call signs above the signals. Now, they're just so jammed that it's useless here on this contest because you just can't read them. There's so many signals. But for most of the time, it's very valuable. Just, wanted to show you that because you can see, like, right here, OM2XO, that's his signal right there. And so, basically all I got to do is click on that call sign. My radio will go to his frequency. It might take some little fine adjustment to tune him in. Then I'm going to come back and I'm going to hit F4 and I'm going to send KO4VW. He's going to answer. I'm going to record, answer, and send back. I'm going to hit F2 and send back my pre-recorded exchange. That's the way it's going to work. And so it can be fairly easy. Get a good key to learn on to start with. This is an example of a CW Morse key of a CW Ops member and from Germany who was traveling in Australia just last week. This happened last week, and this was in his car. He left it in the hot car, and it goes to get his key, and this is what he found. Now, you know, from what I understood later, that when he contacted them, because they advertise everything as being high-temperature polymers, I said, obviously this is not. I 3D print a lot of things, and I have little knowledge in that area. Then they said something about that, oh, you must have gotten one of our indoor keys. Find something on their website about an indoor key for me, please. This is from W4QO's original presentation. I started to just revamp his presentation, but I'm not him and he wasn't me, and we do things differently. But on CW, nobody knows you're a dog. Nobody knows what you look like. Nobody knows how old you are unless you put it all on the QRZ page. You're just another person. Ladies are very popular on CW. And although they sound just the same as everybody else, they don't have higher voices in CW. But all right, well, if we have any questions, we'll do that, and keep the question session kind of short if there aren't, because we got some keys to play with, and I don't know how much time we have left here, but we'll do that, and then we'll go play with some keys, and we have. We have a lot of our CW Ops guys here that can answer your questions over there. So,
one of the things, Steve, in 1996, the FCC, depending upon the class of your license at that time, allowed you to pick a call or change your call. And CW operators looked for a call that had good weighting. And by weighting, I'm not talking about like waiting for a bus. I'm talking about like weighting in pounds or ounces. So, for example, my old advanced call had a weighting, which was KC4MJ, and then had a weighting of about 60 to 62. When I changed the call to N4FN, the weighting dropped to 42, which is a very fast call to send in CW. However, if you had a call like Whiskey 3, Whiskey Lima, that never worked. The only time it ever worked was to work Scarborough Reef.
Well, you know, there is such a thing as a good CW call sign and a not good CW call sign. Mine is not very good. 4s and V's together are really hard, especially at speed, to understand. The only reason I do as well as I do is because everybody knows my call sign. When they hear me coming, they know who it is already. But when I first got started on the air, I ended up sending my call sign a lot of times. I have applied for I don't know how many 1x2s and 2x1s. I've spent several $100s. I'm still KO4VW.
Well, I was going to say something about Neil, and Neil is one of my heroes. He has worked everybody almost except Scarborough Reef, which I try not to hold it over his head, but I did work him and he didn't. So he brings that up every now and then. I told him. Scaffold Reef. It's a long story, but Neil, you're still the best. So thank you.
So B's and 6s, don't get those either.
What's that?
A B and a 6.
A B
Or
and a
an
6?
An H and a 5.
Well, those are tough. Those are things that will teach you how to do in CW Chat or wherever you're going. B's and 6 and H's and 5s are just one dit apart, and it can be hard to tell them apart. A lot of times you figure out which one it is just by where they are placed in the thing. Because you're not going to have more than one number in a call sign. So if you've got a number, it's not going to be a 6 after that. If you've already got a 4, it's not going to be a 6. It's going to be a B, and things like that. So there's those kind of little tricks.
I'm going to challenge that assertion about only one number in a call sign. Have you listened to a lot of the European special events that are on lately?
Oh yes, I just worked 700 and something of them this weekend.
They're getting real big on 2, 3, and 4 numbers in call signs.
A lot of the Europeans will use special calls for these events. A lot of them were 1x1s and 1x2s. But you get some of these SV call signs, they may be 10 digits long. And I work many of those. I work many of them. Yeah, it makes us complaining about our bad call signs seem petty, doesn't it?
Okay, so we have some people on the remote access, Zoom, this evening. Did they have any questions? If you do have questions, please type them in the chat and we can get them asked. Anybody else have any questions here or comments?
Anything else? We've got quite an assortment of keys there from mostly from our guys in CW Chat and our Norfolk CW operators. We have several of the guys that will be happy to explain to you about any of those things. I have back there in the back a simple modern CW station that I can show you how to work macros with. I think Mike, if he got his working, he has the same thing up here. And then we have all these different keys and things like that. So for the rest of this, let's just go play with some keys and ask some questions and just have some fun with CW. It's all about fun. And I'm telling you, it's the most fun thing you can do on ham radio.
CQ, W1 set Y.